the reason why I say that capitalism hates human nature is because capitalism has distilled humanity into the nuclear family, and that's basically it. When you look at the majority of human history, and I'm talking about 99% of it, humans lived in extended families. They had extended families which joined together to form groups, which formed tribes, which formed communities, and then maybe villages or neighborhoods. And then that's kind of where the human nature ends, actually. Nation states, massive civilizations, all these things are really kind of like when the scale swings too far to one side, right? Like, it's not necessarily to our benefit. It might be to a benefit of technology or a benefit of whoever's in charge, really, to create a nation, to accumulate all these things, all this wealth, all the land, all the people for labor, to build great monuments. But there's nothing inherent in like human DNA that says we must band together and build the pyramids. I think there is absolutely a drive for monument making and for creating things in collaboration and working together. But that has been where society has been stuck for a long time, is we've been stuck in, civilization, so to speak. And again, lots of benefits in civilization: technology, medicine, all the modern comforts and luxuries. But there's a reason why people keep going back to like hunter-gatherers and keep looking at like indigenous societies that have not been messed up by Western civilization, and why people keep looking at them and saying, man, these people, they live good lives. They don't wear shoes and they have great feet. They don't eat all this terrible food. They aren't in like these toxic environments. They aren't super stressed, and they live much healthier, freer lives. They don't develop these chronic illnesses that we seem to develop in the Western world. They don't develop autoimmune problems. They don't develop these incredibly toxic views of themselves. And I feel like that is a very funny thing about society and civilization, is that we've gotten rid of a lot of problems in the natural world. There's no tigers coming to eat us. You can have a roof over your head. You can have food basically whenever you want. It might not be good food, but you can have it. Water, right? And yet we've created so many more problems. I mean, comparatively, so many more problems. And I think that's why we see a great movement of people saying, I'm done. You quit the job and you move somewhere else. You buy the farm and you start taking care of your sheep or whatever. It's not because people are like, oh, I've always wanted to be a sheep farmer. It's because people are saying this life that I'm living in, this society, is really actually genuinely killing me. And so when you look at like what a human being needs and how capitalism fails to provide that, human beings need community. Like, this is not an argument. It's just a fact. Human beings need community. Human beings need family. They need a strong sense of family. They need a tight-knit sense of family. Your view of the world comes from how you were raised. I think that a big problem that my generation has experienced, and perhaps many generations, but I certainly notice it in myself, is that my parents have unfortunately taught me to fear the world. And it haunts me to this day, because it gets in the way of these other larger needs like community and tribe and that social connection. Because my parents taught me, as I'm sure many people have heard, stranger danger. Stranger danger, right? You always got to be on the watch out. You never know who's going to get you. In their time, you could basically do whatever, whenever. My uncle, for example, at the prime age of 4, was on vacation with my mom's family, and he got on a ferry by himself, took the ferry like 30 minutes across the river, walked to the grocery store, bought a box of cereal, and then walked back and came home on his own. And you would think of someone like a child doing that today, and everyone would lose their mind. Oh my gosh, the parents are so irresponsible. Oh my gosh, child could have gotten hurt. So many bad things could have happened. But I'm sure that if you look at statistically the amount of children that actually get harmed in situations like that, I would be very surprised if the numbers have changed considerably from the 1970s, 60s when my parents grew up and today. But the perception has changed. And whether you want to blame that on crime shows or on the news or whatever, at the end of the day, people have developed a sense that the world is a scary place and everyone's out to get you, and that you, on some unconscious level, can't trust anybody. Even if you're having a wonderfully pleasant conversation, you never know, right? Like the mailman comes to my door and I'm like, is this the one mailman that has a screw loose? And am I going to end up on a true crime show? And it's like, that is no way to live. That is no way to live. It's actually horrible to go through life and constantly be thinking, who's going to get me? And when you're raised with stranger danger, guess what? Everyone is a stranger. Literally everyone that isn't your family is a stranger. And so when you look at the external world and you see stranger danger, and when you look at the internal world, and like your family, I should say, like your close connections, and it's not that strong, as I think many families today unfortunately aren't, then what are you left with? You can't really develop that strong bond with your family. You sure as heck can't develop it with all these people in the world because they're dangerous. And so you just can't do anything. But you can buy the product that'll solve all your problems. And not to go on a huge rant about that, but I think that capitalism does very much benefit from your suffering, and especially community, right? Like all these pseudo communities online where people are like talking on Discord and Reddit and social media. Like, why is social media so prevalent? It's because it's instant gratification. This is a simplification. There's way more to it, but it's instant gratification. And it gives you that same hit of like that social connection, even though it doesn't have the substance of the social connection that you need. And so it's not meeting your deeper need, but you do it because it's accessible, and because the stakes of going in person, meeting new people, being embarrassed, acting like a fool, messing things up, being judged potentially, feel so high that, well, it's better just to have this incognito communicating with people and not really connecting with them on social media. So the system that we've inherited, capitalism, globalism, like this, very much benefits from our suffering and lack of socialization. So there's no reason monetarily why, at this point in our existence in the society, that the people in charge, the people with all the money would say, yeah, let's make a bunch more eco villages or communes or have tighter knit communities. There's just no incentive for that. And so it's like, where do we go from here? Because at the end of the day, humans need those things. They need tribe, they need family, they need community, they need the neighborhood, and they need a sense of security in all of that, and in the world. And we live in a time where there are forces that are actively working against that. So, unfortunately, I don't necessarily have the solution. I mean, for some individuals, it is quitting and buying the farm. It is going to the eco village. It is moving to a different country where this is not as much of a problem. It's very severe in America. But it would be nice to somehow see, and this is where I'd love to open it up to discussion, like what other people think, to see a world in which we could have a greater sense of community. Because we are moving with a more globalized world, where we're more interconnected than ever before. In some ways, it's a good thing, because I would like to think that when it's all said and done, we'll be more interconnected, and we will be able to see the humanity in everyone, and that shared human connection with everyone, regardless of culture and anything that would otherwise get in the way of that. That's the one downside of the whole tribe mentality, is that there's you and then there's the other. And I would like to think that we would move towards a state of abolishing that and being able to act as one homogeneous Earth. But I don't know if that's going to take an alien invasion or 500 more years, but I'd like to think at some point we get there. But at the same time, yeah, you lose on a microscope, like on a micro level, like if that's the macro level, on a micro level, you lose that connection, right? Like, that's the question I have, is like, would it be substantial if we're like, oh, we're just all humans in this one giant rock in the middle of space? Like, I don't know. I honestly don't know. So this is, yeah, I would love to hear people's thoughts on why, like, where we could go from here as a society, what the solution would be. Because I think that not being a global world, an interconnected world, is not an option. I think there's a lot of benefit that can happen there, but I don't want to see the dilution of humanity and the homogenization of it. Like my father talks about when he used to visit places like China or really any country, they used to be much more distinct. And now they feel all not samey. I mean, they're all very different. I mean, if you go to China today, it's very different than America. But they aren't, there is a loss of culture somewhere in there. I mean, you could say it's a gaining of another culture, and like culture is not something that's always static and never changes. It does. But it feels like there is a loss of that tribe. So yeah, I think in conclusion, we do live in a time where we have a system that we're being subject to that makes it difficult to have these needs met, and makes it difficult to live a life where you feel safe in the world and feel connected and have that, again, that primal, inherent, instinctual need for family and connection and safety and love and community. So yeah, I just hope that we'll one day be able to go back to having those deep connections and that solid community and tribe and family. But I think a lot has to change before we can be there. So yeah, that's all I got.